Welcome back, everybody. Episode 21 of Ask the Collective. And actually, we're doing this a quick double back-to-back episode off of 20 because we got a quick follow-up question about how does China actually learn this? And I hope through this episode we can answer that question for you. So stay tuned, learn about pilots, learn about how to scalability through China. And if you like this, if you find it valuable, if you think a friend will find it valuable, like, share, and comment. So following up on episode 20, we got a really quick reply about, what's the best way to engage and what's the role of pilots in China for some of these issues. And one of the things that we've worked on two projects recently along this line of thought. And there's two ways of approaching. One is that you're actually trying to create a new market for a new product, new solution. You see something that isn't seen readily or isn't discussed readily in the market. And the second one is you're trying to penetrate a market that already has an existing set of established individuals or organizations, has established practice, and is really working through either the competitive nature of a bubble economy, say like solar, or is really just trying to figure out what are the standard steps that need to be taken going forward, and then who will be the winners from there. That's where the pilots come in. The first one I'm going to talk about, because it's a little bit more interesting, we were working with a firm on a clean tech product in the transportation industry. They were the market leader of the specific industry. They had a very clear product range that they were looking at, which was public transportation. When they first came into the market, they had an award-winning kind of process and product that they could actually improve efficiency of operations, led from a product position of we will save you gas. It's a hybrid technology. But they really did a full assessment of all the benefits that you could get from this technology. And they get down to the improvement of the overall mode of transportation, improved safety, the drivers got all kinds of benefit. Obviously it was better for the passengers. There was all kinds of great stuff happening here. But then locally, the suppliers that were involved in this space were like, hey, wait a second, they're going to wipe us out of the market. Please help. The industry, government, NGOs all of a sudden came up with standards that basically blocked out this current business model, which was to import the technology into China. Now, short story long, what ended up happening was that this brand, this foreign B2B supplier, identified a very local just fresh out of incubator entrepreneur, had a non-commercially viable technology, but had a nice thought, a nice technology. They needed the funding, they needed the support, they needed the tech support from our client. They needed all this work to actually bring their product to the market. And over the course of the last 5, 6, 7 years, they have actually brought together one of the best products to the market as a combined non-joint venture, but really an exclusive relationship. And in a way that actually, what used to be the sellable item was the foreign brand, it's now the Chinese brand. They found the right stakeholder who was also trying to get into the market, but wasn't big enough. It helped solve the client's need, which was they were too big, they were too visible, and they were being locked out of the market for various reasons. A nice marriage. The stakeholders were understood very clearly. The value proposition of their product and service was known very clearly. But they had to align to local trends, local partners, the local business environment for them to execute. And a lot of people say, well, that was protectionism. But in this case, because they really just broke down that whole idea and they created a strategy for how to overcome it, the sales of this product and this service in particular quickly surpassed that of their home markets, and actually is now leading the innovation R&D side of the business in this specific product category. And that's kind of what I mean. You have to understand the market. You have to understand the challenge that the stakeholders are facing. And you have to understand the stakeholders, and not just the challenge they're facing, but how you can help them. And I think this is a big fail point for a lot of sustainability companies. They talk about how sustainable they are. They have the lowest water footprint in their factory. They do XYZ better than their competitor. But they never talk about how they can help their stakeholders be more sustainable themselves. And this was an example of where that worked out really well. The government already wanted to support them. They had to find a different business model. They found that local stakeholder who could, symbiotically benefit at the same time that they did. It was a win-win-win. And it was something that took time. There was risk involved, obviously, but it also took real leadership to understand that the market here is different than the market back in the West, and that there's no point in crying about that. The only thing you do is work it out. The other way that I look at this is, if you take carbon trading markets, you take any of these new products, the healthcare trials that are going on in different hospitals, the government will, on a regular basis, proactively try various solutions across the board. Tech, non-tech, foreign, local. Something that works just for the city of Chengdu, which may not work for the city of Qingdao. They try to figure out all the things that could possibly go wrong, all the things that possibly go right, and they try to create a single model or a set of models that can then be applied at scale. We've seen this, or we're seeing this in the EV car space in terms of battery disposal. We've seen this in the healthcare space, and we're going to see a lot more in the healthcare space. And this is where also stakeholder engagement is absolutely critical, because China is a big country. It's a continent in many aspects. It's got different regions with different histories, with different cultures, and often with politics. The political economy itself can often conflict. What's happening on the East Coast won't necessarily represent what's going on in the West. And so at the national level, when they keep these 5-year plans, what you'll see is local mayors will try their own things and see what works for them. That will eventually filter back up, and that will help to create the standard. So releasing yourself of the pressure to create a market in the tier 1s, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, is often really a first step I've seen towards success in the Chinese market when it comes to solving problems of society, environment, and economy. You want to drive an air pollution product in the HVAC sector, do it in a second tier. You want to do rural poverty initiatives, don't try and sell it in Shanghai. Know who your stakeholders are, know where they are, and know how to sell to them. But then, at the same time, also try and figure out what are the pilots that are happening. If you can invest some time, invest some resources, provide a little bit more technical support to that pilot project than you would underneath a normal commercial project, you may find that your process, your product, your service becomes the standard by which they follow. And I'm going to go back to another client I had really early on, 12, 13, 14 years ago. They were doing fiber optic cabling in the big cities. I went and talked to one of the major telecoms. I asked them what's the difference between a foreign and the state-owned enterprise option, because there was multiple options. The foreigners want to believe they were different, that they were better. But what we showed was, regardless of whether or not if you're just looking apples to apples, without any other input, without any other consideration, yes, it was better technically, and the quality of a technical support or a guarantee or any of that would have been better had there been no relationships involved. The foreign company tried to do the standard sales model. The Chinese company, though, the one that we were competing against in this particular process, they had, without any guarantee of sale, put 20, 25 tech people into that telecom's office and it said, if you ever have a question, if you ever want to co-create, if you ever want to work something out, we're here for you. And they hadn't made a sale yet. At the point of time, they had not actually made a sale. But the question from this telecom executive was, is your client going to do that for me? Because that's what I need. I need where their people are in with my people. And he hadn't really made a decision yet on whether or not he was even going to invest time or money into that specific relationship. But what he was basically saying was, if you're not going to invest in me, why should I invest in you? It's still relationship based on that level. Now, imagine you had 17 pilots and you had one firm, your competitor, who was investing 5 people into the 3 key cities that they were most interested in. They understood the landscape, they understood the stakeholders, they know that these were the 3 cities that if you won, you could set the standard, you could have influence, that people would believe that your product is of the highest quality. And let's imagine that you don't do that. You're not going to win. So start thinking differently. Start thinking about, how does China operate a little bit differently? How is it a little bit more person to person here? It's not relationships quid pro quo. People enjoy, just like anywhere else in the world, doing business with people that they understand the value proposition where clarity exists and risk does not. And in this space where the business case for sustainability is already so razor thin, no one's going to take an added risk if they don't know who you are, if they don't know how you're going to service them, if they don't know enough about you to figure out, like, can you even scale up to their need over long term? They're only going to find out if you invest into them. And so for me, that's the other part of this, is as much as you might have the killer app, as much as you might be able to articulate that, at the end of the day, the value proposition here is not just based on the technical merits and whether or not someone logically looks at your product and goes, yes, this is the best product, and it's even worth the 5%. They want to know that you can grow with them. They want to know that you will work with them. They want to know that you guys can really develop something together. Just like in the first case example I mentioned, that relationship is just solid. No other foreign enterprise can enter that relationship, can work with the leading firms selling into that market. Only this client can, because they invested that time with really little expectations for success or profitability. They just knew that they had 3 options to go down, that this was the one that would lead to long-term success, and it's worked. And I really encourage more entrepreneurs, more medium-sized enterprises, small to medium-sized enterprises, and more large firms to understand this, because it does take a longer time to develop. But when it does, the scalability is there and the return comes back. So again, just like episode 20, I hope this provides a little bit of insight into the sales tactics, to the stakeholder engagement tactics that we talk about, that we see as succeeding. If you like this, if you genuinely found value in this, please just like it. Thank you. If you have a friend who's talking about this and you think could, appreciate this and get some value out of it, share it to them. Just @friend. I thought you'd enjoy this. And if you want to see more of this, please subscribe. We do this every week. We have executive speaking. It's not just me. And I hope that you will find value, because if you've made it to this point, you want to find value. I hope I've delivered it. I hope you have a great week. Thank you very much. Have a great week. And we look forward to seeing you on episode 22.